let's talk about being a new player at a new table. So I have a story that I'd like to talk about when being a new player. Mm-hmm. Howard invited me to a game at a friend's place, a mutual friend. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, half the people there already know me. And I sat down on the table thinking that I can just, like, be myself with the two friends I had. And that turned out to not be the case. Like, I was just playing my character, doing my thing. And the first thing that happened is one of the guys said he used the word MacGuffin wrong for the exact wrong thing. And I looked at Warren, who is my mutual friend Warren, who is typically one of the biggest a-holes on the planet. And I was like, are you going to let him get away with that? And suddenly the table turned on me. And I never recovered from that. And that guy did not appreciate me at that table ever again. And I ended up, after like 5 games, that was it. I was like, Howard, I'm not going back.
Well, that particular guy is normally the guy that likes pointing out people are wrong. And it doesn't take it well if you point out he's wrong. He's the one who, when you say, and then the evil Lord lets forth this smoke that just begins to gnaw at you, and it flows across the battlefield and decimates the army. And you say that, he will immediately go, it killed 1/10 of the army? Because that is the actual literal definition of decimation if you go back far enough, but the word has evolved since then, and nobody uses it like that anymore, but that is accurate. And he will do that every time. You can't say decimate anymore unless it only kills 1 in 10.
Ever since then, that one player didn't like me, but everybody kind of gravitated towards his side, being the veteran at the table, and I was the newcomer. So I read that table very wrong to my detriment. Joining a new table, that's a daunting thing. Like, you don't know anybody. Let's say, we're all adults now, and we sometimes have to move. We sometimes have to pick up our entire lives and go to a different town. And what's great about role-playing games is you can just go to the local, like, comic book store, and now they have, like, tables set aside for doing gaming hobbies like board games and Magic the Gathering. Really, it's just there for Magic the Gathering so they can make money doing Magic tournaments. But they'll have a D&D encounter night and stuff, and you can start making friends immediately and building a new gaming group using the people in town that already love this hobby. Getting into a group, if it is an already established group that has been gaming for a long time together, that can feel very much like you're an outsider. It's different going to like a D&D encounters session where it's just a random group of people that sit down at the table and everybody's just trying to figure things out as they go, and nobody, like maybe 2 people at that table know each other. But it's another when they're like, you're really good, I really like you, why don't you come by Monday nights where we do a Monday night Dungeons and Dragons, we'd love to have you at the table. And then suddenly you're in somebody else's house. And there's a bunch of people you don't know, except for that one guy who invited you.
That's awkward.
Have you been in that situation?
I have. You remember Pat, who we used to game with at Comic Storm? He brought me into his regular gaming group, and it was to play Fantasy Hero from the Hero system, and then later on Dragon Quest, which was my first time playing that. I was 19 at the time, and yeah, I didn't know any of those people, and they had read books that I had never read. Like, I'll lose some of my nerd cred here. I never read any of the Dragonlance books. I didn't know anything about them. They referenced them constantly, and I didn't even know they were referencing anything. I was like, oh, they're pretty creative. I gotta up my game. Turned out they weren't, but...
And you still haven't read the Dragonlance books in protest of those people.
No, but I watched the cartoon, so just as good.
Wait, there's a Dragonlance cartoon?
Yeah, it's not good. But it does exist. It's fun, but it's not like some epic thing like I would totally be like, you have to see this. It's not, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings or anything.
And so began the age of despair.
It's an all right cartoon. But yeah, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what to expect. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about you when you first came to Comic Storm. In that case, Pat was our dungeon master. Pat, I love you. When you have a good game master, he can, just kind of rein everything in, get everybody on the same page, get the group together, and get them going. And if he sees somebody's having an issue, because he's controlling the narrative of the story in the game, it's easiest for him or her to be the person who says, all right, well, I'm going to alter the story to make it easier for this person to kind of get them up on the same level. And on the other hand, that leads to something that I always disliked, was when Susie and John are playing and John punches Susie in the shoulder and she's like, Dungeon Master, John hit me. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I will try and control the narrative. And if I am capable of standing up for you, I will. But you can't expect dungeon masters to also be authority figures in the real world to an extent. I feel like there's a weird pressure that gets put on people. But yes, the dungeon master is the one who has the best ability to bring everyone to the game and get everyone involved and measure your level of interaction, what you're capable of, and present you with that amount to deal with.
That is a weird thing that dungeon masters have, is they get this authority that can even extend to like an authority of a teacher or a parent could have over the group, which is not in the job description. You're trying to have a good time just playing a game at a table too. A dungeon master or a game master is a player. You're playing the game. You just have a bigger role than the others. Matt, you have never run a game before, but you tried and it fell apart. Is that something you want to talk about, or would you rather move past that? You can say, no, I don't want to talk about that. We can move on.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not mad about that. Like, I did try to put in a side group with Corey and a few of my other friends. I did try to do the, what was it, the introductory book to L5R? Or that we ran on the channel before.
The beginner
game. At least 2-3 other people make their own characters. Unfortunately, my buddy Ryan was in a different city at the time, and he was busy with his own work. Then I had my buddy Edgar try to put together a Scorpion character, but he found it extremely intimidating because of like all the things that he had to keep up with, like what skills his character was going to have, and what's his backstory. He found the character creation process very, I don't want to say unintuitive, but it's just but it kind of convinced him not to play the game. This
newest version of Legend of the Five Rings is a little overwrought, just a little bit.
Fantasy Flight.
Yeah, this is just a little overwrought, a little.
Yeah.
Since then, they've come out with the Dungeons and Dragons version called Adventures in Rokugan, which is far easier to get into. And since it has the Dungeons and Dragons rules, maybe people would be more into that if they don't like all of that fiddly character option stuff.
That should be the topic of our next one, is learn from our mistakes, and we'll all talk about the things that we did that didn't work.